let us prepare ourselves even further. If you put your hand over your eyes, I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. Put your hand over your heart. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that your life is waiting for you to happen. Your life is waiting for you to happen. We need to stop waiting for the perfect job, the perfect weight, the perfect partner, the perfect amount of money in our bank account. And we have to start expressing the perfect you that you are right this second. Once we start expressing this perfect us that we are, the perfect self that we are, then Spirit will catch that and help us take it to the next step in our lives. Well, today we are finishing up our series. We have done a whole series in December on the light that we are, the way we shine in this world, and stories from other cultures and other religions that can help us shine even brighter. Turn to a neighbor and say, I love the way you shine. We started out with this series with the Buddhist tradition of Bodhi Day, which is the day of enlightenment of the Buddha. We went on then to study Hanukkah and the festival of lights, that the Hanukkah story, and the story of freedom that Jews brought to us. And then we went on to winter solstice and the pagan tradition and how they embraced the light that was going to come through the darkest night of the year. And then finally, last week we looked at Christianity, and we looked at the light of the Christ that is within each and every one of us. Today we're studying about Kwanzaa. We're going to look at the holiday of Kwanzaa. It is a perfect demonstration of what our founder, Ernest Holmes, said is the creative process. The creative process. What you sow, you'll reap. That you might weep too. I've wept a lot of times in my life. But what I've sown, I've wept. But no, what you reap. You don't have to be so hard this morning. I know it. To myself especially. All right. It started with a graduate student whose heart hurt. It was during the riots in the 1960s in Los Angeles. And his heart hurt. And what he did was he said, I want to do something positive for my people. He understood completely why people were rioting. Don't get me wrong. He wasn't putting anybody down for rioting. He was just simply saying, I'm going to do something different than that. He understood that people rioted when intolerance became just too intolerant, when injustice became just too intolerant. It's like what happened in Ferguson. Just one more black kid was killed by a person of authority, and people erupted. The injustice had gone on just too long. We learned in the Hanukkah story that the Jews snapped. The intolerance was just too great, and they snapped. We know that from our history. Those of us who are gay especially know that the gay people of Stonewall, we snapped when the intolerance and the injustice went on just a little bit too long. The Chinese people in Tiananmen Square, they snapped when injustice went on a little bit too long. Sometimes you and I have snapped to our beloved when we let it go a little bit too long. Snapping actually happens when we don't take care of things. But what Dr. Karinga decided to do was to say, look, I'm going to let you all fight it out. Those of you who want to riot. Those of you who are racist, be racist. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to find something that I can demonstrate that my people are whole, perfect, and complete in a proactive way. He turned away. Our founder said this. He taught us this. It's a powerful teaching. Turn away from the howlers. Now, Dr. Holmes wasn't saying turn away from the howlers and put your head in the sand and ignore things that are going on. Turn away from the howlers so you have the creativity, you have the space to be able to bring something positive onto the planet in your life. And that's what Dr. Karinga did. He said, I want to do something good that will affirm who my people are, which is whole, perfect, and complete people. So he went to his homeland. He went to Africa. And he learned about a holiday called Kwanzaa, which is a first fruit harvest holiday. And he came home and he added, it was Kwanzaa with one A at the end. And what he did was he added that second A to Kwanzaa to signify African American people. And he brought along with him the 7 principles, and he designed those 7 principles so that it was helpful to the African American community here. As we have done with each of our holidays, we've brought an altar up. We brought the altar for Hanukkah. We brought the altar for Bodhi Day. We brought the altar for winter solstice and the altar for Christmas. Today we have an altar for Kwanzaa, and I'm going to bring Tanya Beverly up to do the blessing.
Habaragani.
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 What's the good news? The good news for today is that this is the second day of Kwanzaa, Kujichagulia, self-determination. So, I have Sarafni who's going to be helping me with the lighting of the candles on our altar today. So the candles, black, red, and green. The black candle represents the African American people. The red candles represent our experiences as African American people, and the green candles are for the hope and futility of the future. So we're going to start with the first candle, the black one. And it is for Umoja. Can you say that? Umoja. Umoja means unity. We'll start with the most inner red candle next, and that is for Kujichagulia.
Kujichagulia.
Self-determination. We'll light our first green candle, inner green, and that is for Ujima.
Ujima.
Collective works and responsibility. We'll light our next red candle, and that is for Ujama.
Ujama.
Cooperative economics. Our next green candle is for Nia.
Nia.
Which means purpose. Our red candle is Kaumba.
Kaumba.
Which means creativity. And the last green candle is for Imani.
Imani.
Which means faith. Thank you. And so I'll end with the Nguzo Saba chant. Imani Umoja Kujichagulia Ujima Ujama Kaumba Nia Nia and Nguzo Saba. Ashe.
Ashe. Fabulous. Well, today, as Tanya said, is the second day of Kwanzaa, Kujichagulia. And I just want to reread the definition of Kujichagulia: to define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, speak for ourselves, instead of being defined, named, created for, and spoken for by others. By others. You know, I want to be clear. This is an African American holiday celebrating African American life here. Maulana Karinga understood how important Kujichagulia was in the life of African Americans, because they had had years of oppression, because other people were defining them, speaking for them, telling them who they were, and he understood how important that is. I'm not trying to insert European Americans here. I'm not trying to insert Latin Americans or Asian Americans or anybody else into this holiday. But we are celebrating it in a diverse community and recognizing that there is, like all of the ones that we've done before this, tremendous spiritual nourishment for every being on this planet. Because as our founder Ernest Holmes often said, passionately and frequently, it is imperative for all people to learn self-determination. And when he talked about self-determination, he was talking about the capital S, self-determination, that one with that says that we are the presence of God. That's the self-determination that we're really looking for in our lives. The one that says that we are already whole, perfect, and complete. And anything that says that we are not whole, perfect, and complete is a lie. Is a lie. It's a lie that yes. It's simply a lie that more black people are on welfare than any other people. It's a lie that women should work for less money doing the same job as men do. That's a lie. It's a lie that all Muslims, and in fact most Muslims, and in fact even many Muslims, are terrorists. That's a lie in our life. It's a lie that men can't nurture children. That's a lie. We need to get rid of that lie. It's a lie that some of us are too old to start over. That's a terrible lie. It's a lie that people who have stage 4 cancer are going to die always. That's a lie. That's a lie. And when we begin to understand that we are whole, perfect, and complete and stop agreeing with those lies, they will go back to what Emerson said, the nothingness from which they came. They go back to the nothingness from which they came. See, Kujichagulia reminds us, as the Muslims tell us, that we are the very arms and legs and hands and feet and the very breath of God on this planet. We're not all of God, but we're enough. But God is all of us. And here's the thing, I say that a lot, and I'm going to keep saying a lot. You're going to hear it in 2016, and 2017, and 2018. I'll probably be in here in 2019, and I'll still be saying it. Because once we get that, we walk in a different way. You know, we really get life in a different way. We understand what it means to love people. We understand what it means to love our neighbor, our gay neighbor, our straight neighbor, our Muslim neighbor, our black neighbor, our brown neighbor, our neighbor that speaks kind of funny, our addicted neighbor. Our neighbor doesn't cut the lawn just kind of how we like it. You know, our neighbor who, when it comes time to prayer, they get a little carpet out of their car and stop on the road and put it down and face the east and they pray. We love that neighbor. We love the neighbor who, when it comes time for them to pray, they get on a little pillow and they pretzel themselves all up and they pray that. We love that neighbor. When we're God, we understand that. We're not afraid of any of those things because we know that we are part of all of those things. See, when we understand that we are God and that God is all of us, we can climb a higher hill than we've ever climbed in our life before because we know that we're powered by an omniscient, omnipresent God that has no limitations in our lives. When we get that we're a spark of that unlimited energy, that's a spark of our unlimited energy. Hello? I'd like to hear more sparks in 2016 of the unlimited energy. When we're here in the church, I'd like to hear that. Amen, everybody? Amen. All right, let's go. Let's go 2016. All right. See, when we get more spark, then we define ourselves with less limits. Our dreams come closer to us. Our relationships come deeper. our challenges are less daunting in our life when we really get who it is that we are on the planet. Well, the principle goes on to say, let's rename ourselves. Rename ourselves. Now, Dr. Karinga was talking about shedding the slave name and bringing on a name from that pleased you in whatever way. That's the meaning of it. In fact, his name was Ron when he was a graduate student. And then he went to Africa and came back as Maulana because he said, I'm going to change my name to help me change into this new expression of who it is that I want to be. But, we're all able to do that. What I want to talk about is changing your surname. See, because your first name is I am. That's your first name, I am. And the surname is the one that we're always at choice in giving to ourselves. I am rich, I am poor. I am fat, I am skinny. I am successful, I'm a screw up. We get to choose whatever that name is. And it's critical that we walk around knowing that we have that choice and we make the right choice every single day. We can celebrate Kwanzaa by being mindful that our name drives, our second spiritual name drives our experience. And you can drive your experience into a positive direction or you can drive it into a negative direction. And the choice is always ours. So we want to rename ourselves with that which we want to see and want to reflect who we are. See that pet name that your great Aunt Minnie gave you, that, little Pudgy George is here. Okay, Grand Aunt Minnie, you know what? You keep that in your scrapbook if you want, but I'm not taking it anymore. It's not my name anymore. And y'all have a great Aunt Minnie somehow, somewhere that's given you some sort of an idea of what your surname is. Let her put it in her scrapbook. But don't take it with you anymore. We need to be mindful that we can celebrate Kwanzaa this week if we take inventory every night. How many names have you given yourself after the great I am? How many times have you called yourself something that's diminishing in your life? Put your hand over your heart. Just say, I am amazing. I am amazing. Let's do it one more time. I am amazing. I invite you to do that one time each day this week. And if you don't want to do it around people at work, they might think I'm big-headed or whatever. It would do them good to think that. But at any rate, if you don't want them to think that, go into the bathroom, go to your car, do it. But begin to tell yourself the truth of who it is that you are. The next part of this principle, Kujichagulia, is stop letting others create for you. See, we let other people create. In Science of Mind, we say creation is taking dictation from the divine. That's what being creative is, taking dictation from the divine. Not your old past mistakes, not your old religion's values, not society values, but what you want to create for yourself with this new definition. I want to read a story. I think I've shared it here before. It's one of my very favorites, and it's a guy who created for himself. First, he defined who he was. Never mind what society was telling him. He defined who he was, and then he created for himself. And the name of the story is called, Look Out, Baby, I'm Your Love Man. Les Brown and his twin brother were adopted by Minnie Brown, a kitchen worker and maid, shortly after their birth in a poverty-stricken Miami neighborhood. Because of his hyperactivity and nonstop jabber, Les was placed in special education class for the learning disabled in grade school and throughout high school. Upon graduation, he became a city sanitation worker in Miami Beach. But he had a dream of being a disc jockey. At night, he would take a transistor radio to bed where he listened to the local jive-talking DJs. He created an imaginary radio station in his tiny room with its torn vinyl flooring. The hairbrush served as his microphone, and he practiced his patter, introducing records to ghost listeners. His mother and brother could hear him through the thin walls and would shout to him to quit flapping his jaws and go to sleep. But Les didn't listen to them. He was wrapped up in his own world, living a dream. One day, Les boldly went to the radio station during lunch break from mowing the grass from the city. He got to the station manager's office and told him he wanted to be a disc jockey. The manager eyed this disheveled young man in overalls and a straw hat and inquired, "Do you have any broadcasting background?" Les replied, "No, sir, I don't." "Well, son, I'm afraid we don't have a job for you then." Les thanked him politely and left. The station manager assumed he'd seen the last of the young man, but he underestimated the depth of Les Brown's commitment to his goal. Mamie Brown had taught Les to pursue his dreams, so he felt sure he would get a job at the radio station, in spite of what the station manager had said. So Les returned to the station every day for a week, asking if there were any job openings. Finally, the station manager gave in and took him on as an errand boy at no pay. At first, he fetched coffee or picked up lunches and dinner for the DJs who could not leave the studio. Eventually, his enthusiasm for their work won him the confidence of the disc jockeys, who would send him in their Cadillacs to pick up visiting celebrities such as the Temptations and Diana Ross and the Supremes. Little did any of them know that young Les did not have a driver's license. Les did whatever was asked of him at the station and more. When hanging out with the DJs, he taught himself their hand movements and control panel. He stayed in the control rooms and soaked up whatever he could until they asked him to leave. Then, back at his bedroom at night, he practiced and prepared himself for the opportunity he knew would present itself. One Saturday afternoon, Les was at the station. A DJ named Rock was drinking while on the air. Les was the only other person in the building, and he realized that Rock was drinking himself to trouble. Les stayed close. He walked back and forth in front of the window in Rock's booth. As he prowled, he said to himself, "Drink, Rock, drink." Les was hungry and he was ready. He would have run down the street for more booze if Rock had asked. When the phone rang, Les pounced on it. It was the station manager, as he knew it would be. "Les, this is Mr. Klein." "Yes, Les, I know." "Les, I don't think Rock can finish his program." "Yes, I know." "Well, would you call one of the other DJs to come in and take over?" "Yes, sir, I sure will." But when Les hung up the telephone, he said to himself, "Now that guy must think I'm crazy." Les did the dial telephone, but it wasn't to call another DJ. He called his mother first and then his girlfriend. "Y'all go out on the front porch and turn the radio up because I'm about to come on the air," he said. He waited about 15 minutes before he called the general manager. "Mr. Klein, I can't find nobody," Les said. "Well," Mr. Klein said, "young man, do you know how to work the controls in the studio?" "Yes, sir, I do." Les darted into the booth, gently removed Locke aside, and sat down at the turntable. He was ready, and he was hungry. He flipped on the microphone switch and said, "Look out, this is me, LB and Triple P, Les Brown, your platter playing papa. There were none before me, and there will be none after me. Therefore, that makes me the one and only, young and single and love to mingle. Certified, bona fide, and undoubtedly qualified to bring you satisfaction. A whole lot of action. Look out, baby, I'm your love man." That's what happens when we define ourselves and we don't let anybody else define us. And when we create our own opportunities for creativity and not everybody else's. I often say that if you get a vision, God will always give you a provision. If you have a vision, God will always give you a provision. And we need to take that deeply inside of us so that we're not afraid to take a risk. We're not afraid to step out. If you have a vision, God will always give you a provision in your life. Well, the final component of Kujichagulia, I practiced that in front of the mirror maybe 500 times, Kujichagulia, is to speak for ourselves. It's to speak for ourselves. Now, look, that sounds like a no-brainer, doesn't it? Because who else would speak for us? We let all kinds of people speak for us. And we do that mostly by giving them permission through our silence. Through our silence is how we let other people speak for ourselves. And we do that because we don't want to rock the boat. We stay silent because it's easier for us. We stay silent because we don't want to hurt anybody else's feelings by speaking up. We stay silent very often because we don't even know what it is we think sometimes about an issue in order to speak up in our lives. See, it's important that we take some time to partner with the presence. Because if we don't know what it is we think about something in our lives, and some of us now in the church are working with our chief spiritual officer, our CSO. Your CSO, another word for God, your CSO will always help you understand what it is you think about an issue. Your CSO will always give you the right words, the loving words, not the put down words, the loving words to express what it is that you need to express in your life. See, the amount of Kujichagulia that you and I have is directly corollary to how hooked up we are to the presence. Directly corollary to how hooked up we are to the presence of God in your life. This holiday has a lot of spiritual nourishment for us. I hope you'll come back because at 4 o'clock we're going to even learn more about the other principles here, and we're going to learn some fascinating things. Dave Wynn's going to bring us some fascinating information about what African Americans have given to us that we don't even know about. How many people here knew that it was an African American? I was very excited about this. An African American who invented the golf tee. Yeah. I mean, there's some important. There. Yes. There's some more significant things here that you're going to learn about, but that's pretty darn, isn't it, Les? That's pretty significant for us. Yes. So let us take this message into prayer, knowing that there's only one power. It's the power of love, and it goes through us, all the way through us, through love. And if we stay with that and nothing else, we don't have to cram literature into our head. We don't have to cram scripture into our head. We just have to cram this into our head. Love is the only power that changes the world. Love for ourselves, love for others. I give thanks for this. I release this word into the law, and together we say, and so it is.